So Ken, today we're talking with Bill Miller, a
We are.
telecom and business advisor, an accomplished author, 45 plus year industry veteran, and someone who's quite passionate about technology. Uh, Bill's been shaped by an illustrious career and some hard-earned wisdom, I would say, in the telecom sector
Mhm.
predominantly. And Bill, you recently started Zabooom for voice AI, which we can certainly talk about. Bill, as I said, you spent what, almost 5 decades inside an industry that reinvents itself every 10, maybe even 15 years or so. Ken and I are what, 3 decades in, Ken?
Yeah, we're almost dinosaurs.
There you go. So we've all seen, a few of these changes. When you look back, Bill, across those cycles, from monopoly telecom to deregulation to wireless to today's digital and IP and now AI ecosystems, um, what patterns do you see repeating? And what do leaders consistently maybe get wrong when change happens and now it's accelerating, right? What happened in the 80s
Ooh.
has definitely, it's happening faster now, right? 50 years later.
Well, the barrier to entry today is so low
Hmm.
because the tools are better than ever. When I go back to the early days, which is before your time even, I started as a software engineer in the process control world before I hit telecom. And interesting is they didn't even have debuggers. As a coder, there were no such thing as debuggers. You had to write your own debugging tools. And
Yeah.
and I wrote an assembly language so I could write machine language stuff. I mean, I don't know the stuff anymore, but that's how far back I go, back
Right.
into this in the late 60s and early 70s. And when you look at that and you look at today, you don't even have to code to create
Mm-mm.
a SaaS product.
Right.
A SaaS product that would be UCaaS or voice AI even. You don't have to write a line of code. I mean, it's good to understand it. It's good to understand logic. And believe me, if you have a logical brain and a math background and all this kind of stuff, and you know how to use the new tools that are out there and put them together as a system, the barrier to entry is the lowest I've ever seen it in all of my years. And that's the biggest challenge for today. And you've got companies that have been around for decades. Maybe as you get to the newer ones that have been around 5 to 10 years, 10 to 20 years, and they're now being challenged and, in fact, replaced with the simple AI solution. And the AI solutions are coming every single day. So
Mm-hmm.
what's different is the barrier to entry is so low, and a lot of the kids start so young that they can create solutions. They're already in digital families. Some of them are even in digital native families, right?
Right.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
Because my kids are in their 40s, and you could say they're digital natives because I always had a computer in my house. So they
Right.
learned very young how to do computer oriented stuff, whether it was a user or a gamer or whatever. But the kids today, they start at 12 or 14 and they have a freaking YouTube channel and they know how to do video and editing better
Hmm.
than any adult,
Right.
This
unless
is
that's
true.
their
Yeah,
unless
my
they're
my granddaughter runs circles around me with video editing.
and that's just an example.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, if they get something that's an underserved market, then they have a company
Mm-hmm.
because people pay them or they hire them to sponsor something. We've seen this in the toy world, but now we're seeing it everywhere. So those the fact that there are the biggest difference is yes, the technology is moving faster, but the barrier to entry is so low.
Hmm.
If you're smart and creative, you can create something in an underserved market. So that's the biggest change to me. The things that are the same is you still have to create, you still
Yep.
have to build it, you still have to test it, you still
Mm-hmm.
have to bring it to market. And if you want it to be successful, you have to think about every element. Even if you have this AI tool and AI solution, AI infrastructure, even, you still have to do all the pieces or else it's not going to work.
I would
Right.
I would add.
When we started this AI thing,
Mhm.
started thinking about it in the summer, and then in November, we decided to form the LLC. And it's just Connie and I. We're both life partners and business partners. You've met Connie, I think. And one of the things that we both tend to do is do the hard thing first. Okay. Connie likes a challenge. Uh, I'm I'm kind of never against a challenge. I'm always up for one. And this time we noticed that everybody in the cohorts and the different groups we were going to were focused on AI inbound.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And one of the things that occurred is a local insurance agent or insurance district manager for a very large uh, company that is a household word reached out to both of us on LinkedIn to try to recruit us as insurance agency owners.
Interesting.
So we talked, and Connie says, "Why don't you reach out to him and let's tell him what we're doing and pitch him?"
Nice.
That was that became our first pilot. So I reached back to him, open arms. He said, "Yeah, come on into my office. It's local."
Hmm.
That's how he found us through LinkedIn, local. And so we went over to his office about 15 minutes away, and we 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 have a demo on our website, which is just a widget, but it gives you an idea of how voice AI can help your business.
Sure.
So so we we just used that as a demo, talked a little bit about my background, Connie's background. Um, Back in the early 2000s when I left Silicon Valley startup and I was burned out. um, I did some consulting with a lot of insurance agents in California, and I showed them how to do marketing and generate leads and
Hmm.
follow up with them. And it was a different perspective than they were used to in their world of insurance, selling insurance. Now that was health insurance, life insurance, and stuff like that. Those are the people that I consulted with out there. And then to help them even more, I got my own insurance license in California. So I started teaching cold calling, believe it or not. Even though I didn't know anything about it, I had to learn it myself. But at the end of the day, this guy has over 60 agents in the Twin Cities area. So while we were there, we built this pilot of he wasn't interested in inbound. He was only interested in calling leads,
So he wants an outbound campaign, and
all
you're willing to
outbound.
talk, and you're talking about a proof of concept with him. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Now, I follow all the rules and regulations in multiple from multiple sources, but obviously my primary source is Jonathan Marashlian and his team.
Sure.
Last year I had one of his attorneys, Brian Alexander, was on my panel
Mm-hmm.
with Tony Lewis and Jody Gonzalez.
Mhm. Sure.
And um and those guys are both in my book along with you, Jody and Tony. But it's interesting how fast the laws are moving and how the FCC is coming down on robocalling.
Yep.
And I hate robocalling and telemarketing, and I was never a big supporter of any of it. However, in the insurance business, they buy leads from sources that really get buy-in and consent. And the
And
laws
that's the,
that's
and that's the and that's the key. The word consent.
the key is,
Yeah.
and this is one of the biggest challenges. I said in every company I've worked for the last how many decades, I can't even tell. I always became a contracts guy because I was a senior guy for many, many years, over 30, 35 years in the senior role.
Mhm.
And I find myself, I'll review the contract before it goes to a lawyer, and I'll be the first guy to review it when it comes back from a lawyer. So I could tell the CEO
And I could relate.
what is the business risk, right? So I
Yeah.
was the guy to identify the business risk versus the BS that the attorneys inbound or outbound are trying to protect us against.
Right.
So the attorneys I've worked for, most of them are really good, but they
Mhm.
have their own expertise. You know, they're just like us in their own
Right.
business. And the
Yes.
fact is that, you know, what they think is a problem is not a business risk for us. That's
Right.
so I said, I can do all this contract stuff. I'll take care of this side. Connie, you just make this thing work. Let's build it to the customer requirements. It's easy to do that. They gave us the requirements. We kept meeting with their team at live, which was easy to
Mhm.
do.
Right.
Um, and we were able to set up, we told them we're not going to charge them for the pilot. It's our first pilot.
Mhm.
So this is a kind of hopefully a win-win for both of us.
Right.
And it was a huge risk because I know that this is an area that a lot of people are saying, don't touch insurance and financial services. It's a regulated industry. They're after robocallers. You got to be careful. But in this pilot, we learned a couple of really, really important things, right?
So you're
One
threading. So
is,
you're threading the needle real careful.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
What did
And
you?
during the pilot, you have to learn on the voice calling platforms. So we're not doing SIP. We're not going into IT in these companies. We're running in as an adjacent, kind of like in the early Ethernet days. I was an Ethernet product manager at Prime Computer.
Sure.
You you learn that the networking world realized to sell to a larger company, you had to have a work group computer, a work group switch,
Mhm.
because a work group switch comes in cheap enough in the budget for a department. They don't have to go up the stream to the capital committee. So here, going to a local office, we can sell voice services through Telnix or Twilio. We buy the
Mhm.
phone number, we warm up the phone number, we make sure that it's a clean number. We we did some tests on how many calls per minute we could actually make
Mhm.
before we're flagged by telcos. Excuse me for a second. The cold X up. Sorry about that.
No
So
worries.
No worries.
so I have my tea here. But what you learn is that if you try to do too many calls per minute on one phone number, you find out how many you can make before they flag you. And it's only cost a couple of bucks to get a new phone number. So you get rid of that one, you put a new one in, and you can do a small pool of numbers like any typical call center,
Sure.
what the robocallers do. But we want to keep this on the up and up. And we want these insurance agencies, which all work for this district manager, we want these people all to buy in and love this stuff. And so the other thing we learned is that they don't even know. They know that TCPA is important,
Sure.
but if you ask them, what do we have to abide by for your office, they don't know the answer. They don't. They only know it has to be TCPA compliant, but they don't know what that means.
Right.
Well,
So you provide that.
I
So
would
you.
venture to say that most of the telcos don't either.
So I become quite proficient at this. And then also we're using a couple of different voice platforms so we can switch if we have to. But as Connie's built this, we've got the core is retail voice platform, and retail has AI themselves that goes into uh, what the prompts are doing.
Right.
And when we would identify the insurance agent, because you have to, the prompt is very important. You have to say, this is, this is. I think you use Eva or something in your thing there. This is Eva. Um, I'm a voice AI assistant for agency X.
Right.
You have to say that to identify that your voice AI. But you have to say that. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
You know,
disclosure. Right.
it's a
Right.
disclosure right up front, and
Right.
why you're calling, there has to be a reason. And the reason I make recommendations for these people, it's a while back, because they buy old leads. A while back, you requested a quote for insurance. Are you still interested in lowering insurance rates?
Right.
So, so we've worked really hard on those prompts to get people to talk. But what you learn is, as soon as a person hears that it's insurance, 95% of, if they answer at all, they don't care, right? So 75% we also track. So these agencies don't track their calls. They don't have any data. They don't know how many connections. They know how many calls they make. Mini call center I told you about, they have an auto dialer,
Right.
one of the more recent auto dialers specifically for insurance businesses. So watching their videos helped me understand a little bit about what we needed to make sure uh, we were compliant with. And then we go beyond them because we continue the conversation, collect all the information, and then do a warm transfer to a live agent. And when this stuff started to work, they gave us one live agent.
Mm-hmm.
They had to change the phone number that they were transferring it to his cell phone, and he couldn't handle that because a lot of times he's driving or whatever. So they had to change it to an office phone number and have it go into some some pool within their own CRM,
Right.
which we're doing an interface for now, integration with. But I mean, I knew nothing about any of that stuff.
So
But
Bill, let me ask a question. What I just heard you say, as you're describing everything you did for Zabooom, is really a verticalized solution
mhm,
for the insurance and or financial sector.
mhm.
And again, without seeing the product, firsthand, it sounds like you kept it simple. It was something that his team can utilize without
Yep.
complex training.
Mhm.
And more importantly, you're helping him with better outcomes. That's really what you did. You're basically saying,
All right.
yes, you could do this manually. You could do this the way you've been doing it before, but here's a way to automate. Here's a way to provide efficiency. Here's a way to
Right.
do something that lets your human staff support the initiative once you actually have a live body on the phone that wants to talk to a person. Is that essentially what did I take
That's
this correctly?
that's pretty close. But to install the risk part that you asked about, risk
Yes.
decision,
Yes.
when we decided to do this, outbound is definitely the underserved area because
Yes.
because the FCC is so focused on robocalling
Yep.
and all of these new rules. But see,
Right.
we are down line from stir shaking and all of those attestation
Yep.
things. The
Yep.
problem is that if people do sue, they're gonna, they might include us in that list.
In the broader sense, yes. Yes. Got
So,
it.
but we're not a carrier. We make sure that we're
Right.
not a carrier.
Hmm.
We don't provide the voice platform. It's in the solution,
Right.
but it's under a different agreement that we have, right, with the
Right.
provider, and we have two of them. So from that perspective, we're starting off that way. That's not how we're going to be, but
Right.
that's how we're starting off, and we have referrals into more agencies and we have a champion who's been that insurance agent at the end
Right.
We have to figure out a way to compensate this guy for referrals because
Right. Right.
something I didn't think about up front. But we've gone after an underserved area in a highly regulated market,
Right.
in a very large market. But when you think about it, all of these agency owners, they're business owners, small business owners,
Mm-hmm.
just like yourselves. They're small business. They're 2 to 5 people. Some may have 8 to 10 people, but they're small businesses except for the district, which is a large corporate facility.
Right.
But they they don't have marketers. They buy leads. They definitely buy leads,
Mm-hmm.
and they buy the specials. So when the special comes out at the end of a quarter, they buy the 15-cent leads that are 8, 9, 10 years old.
Okay.
And we've learned there are deceased people.
Right.
They don't drive anymore. And and you learn when you listen to the calls to go through them with the client that um, the older people don't even know they're talking to AI.
Right.
The younger people or the people like yourselves who are in the business know you're talking to AI and say, "Hey, this is cool."
Right.
Or you have somebody who says, "Yeah, I'm interested in getting an insurance quote, but not from an AI, not from a robot." And she says, "All I'm doing is collecting, confirming your information. Then I pass you off to a licensed agent."
Right.
So we're not selling anything.
Okay.
We're just following up on something that they did a long time ago that the lead company has to prove that they have signed consent. Now, this is
Right.
Mhm.
this is the hardest part for these agency owners is that they assume they don't have any proof. They assume. So I created 2 documents. Oh, Retail and their AI, by the way, they will shut you down if you try to impersonate somebody and they don't have any proof that you can do that. So I had to create a document that's authorization to represent this insurance agency, this big company,
Mm-hmm.
and that got us turned back on. Now I've made it a standard document, and then a master service agreement. Now I've done enough SaaS in my career, especially voice over IP and UCAS, that it's pretty easy for me to write a master service agreement.
Huh?
Um, but I think that I've kind of made it hard because these people aren't used to these kinds of contracts. So that's where I'm focused right now is to try to make it simple, more simple,
Right.
just like the business is simple, but still comply and tell them, you should just send an email to your lead supplier and they buy from 2 or 3 different places and just ask them for proof of consent for digital dialing, automated dialing. And usually they have that because people don't even know they're doing it. It's checkbox.
Right.
When you go online and you ask for a quote for insurance,
Right.
moving, all of a sudden, you get inundated with people because they sell the leads to so many people.
Yeah. It's what do you call it? Web wrap and those types of
Yeah.
click to consent uh, on your
Mhm.
computer. Ken and I were discussing your venture into writing a few weeks back, and you know, I think we both found it inspiring, Ken, right? Um,
Yeah, I have a
and
book I've been writing for 5 years now, and it kind of spurred me to pick it back up. So,
and I think the question that I had was, after decades of being in executive leadership, you chose to write the book, The Rookie CEO, right? That was
Mhm.
your first main venture into book writing.
That's right.
And I'm just curious, what was the moment or the reason that made you realize I need to put this into writing? What was the aha moment?
I love that question. So in 1998, believe it or not, I was at a major company that we know, um, Japanese company, and I was a vice president and general manager. And the CEO who hired me was not there the day I started. They fired him.
Oh, okay.
And they put an interim CEO who was the VP of sales and on the interview trail as the interim while they looked and searched for a new CEO. Now, it was a divisional CEO, but that's how they were structured. In the US, because in the US, for a Japanese company, you're international. That was a great
Right.
piece of learning for me.
Hmm.
Um, because when the hardware is shipped from Japan to the US, it's got Japanese connectors on it. You got to go in, change the 50-pin telco connector for switch. Anyway, there were ATM switches involved, which is how I got the job. I came from General Datacom and ATM, and there were PBXs involved. So all of that stuff was coming to our division. So I learned a little bit. Then they went and decided they were going to hire somebody from AT&T. And the person they hired was a female. So the first ever CEO in a Japanese division that was a female. And she decided there were 7 of us who were VPs. A couple of us were VP GMs. I had a little business unit and within the company. And she came in, introduced herself at the national sales meeting in San Diego, and she wanted to show us how tough she was. So, and she had been a very successful GM at AT&T.
Hmm.
So I knew that there was something to learn from her, and she became my new boss. And at the first one-on-one, which was just a few days later after the national sales meeting, where everybody had an opinion, believe me, we all had
Sure.
opinions. We were
Right.
all we were all strong type A's. And the funniest part was right after that one-on-one, I said, I always took chronological notes anyway. I said, I'm going to take specific notes. I've always wanted to write a book. This could be the beginning of one. So I have all the notebooks going all the way back to 1998, all consecutive, all the way through every company, including Digium and Mark Spencer and Danny Wyndham and, you know, everybody that I worked for. Who the heck knew I was going to work for 9 first-time CEOs in a row?
9.
9. The
Wow.
rookie CEO is 9 first-time CEOs,
Right.
3 women and 6 men. There's no real common denominator except the fact that they were first-timers. There's
Interesting.
minor denominators, like the most successful or most qualified are former general managers who understood different business functions and what drove them.
Right.
The least successful came from a business function like sales and only understood what motivated salespeople, not what motivated an engineer. Like
Operational versus sales. Yes.
it's like my favorite story in the rookie CEO is the wheelbarrow story. I was at a Silicon Valley startup. The founder CEO hired another person to become the CEO so that he could stay in technology, chief strategy and technology. And he stayed chairman of the board, but at the end of the day, didn't wasn't qualified, even though a serial entrepreneur and very successful, didn't really know how to lead people
Hmm.
and admitted it. Was a great person, but and made some of good decisions for the right reason, and some of them backfired. And that's those are things that all contribute to my knowledge base. You could, because I was behind the scenes in every meeting. I was every board meeting in Silicon Valley, tier one VCs. We raised $26.5 million. I was employee number 8, third week of the company. There was no business plan. There was just money, lots of money.
Right. Right.
Go spend it. It was time to press release. And I was running marketing and product management. So I was a busy boy,
Right.
right? Hiring people to make all the stuff happen, hiring a PR firm to put us on the map, which I did,
Mhm. Right.
getting ready to launch the products less than a year later, and making sure that we could get acquired by one of the big boys
Okay.
for $1 billion.
Right. Right.
So when we got the 26 million, we had almost $100 million post money valuation.
Mhm.
So 10 to 1 was not unheard of at the time.
Right.
2001.
Right.
It was not unheard of. So I can say that I went from the Japanese company where I started. I knew I was going to write this book. I took notes. Actually, I took the notes before she was introduced. I started with the interim CEO, who did kind of make it into the book, but just temporarily. He's there, but he's
Well,
he's
he was a
just
temporary CEO.
he was a temporary CEO. He got fired because he really blew his whole everything by trying to become the real CEO.
Right. Yeah.
Because they
Sometimes you
made
just
him
have to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
because they made him the interim, he
Uh-huh.
dropped the sales stuff and sales went to hell in a handbasket. And so he blew that. And then one of the first things she did was replace him.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So he was gone. And and then she brought in all of her lieutenants from AT&T and created SVP jobs on top of the rest of us.
Right. Right.
So myself and the SVP of and the VP of engineering, we quit a week apart. We it
Yeah.
was really interesting.
So that
Uh,
so that was definitely a hard lesson to be learned then.
that was one of those growing lessons
Mhm.
that, in my opinion, make better leaders. When you see the good, the bad, and the ugly, I like that phrase because you were on that panel.
Yes.
When you see the good, the bad, and the ugly, you really get to appreciate good when you see it.
Hmm.
And you really know ugly when you see it.
Right.
The bad can be changed.
Sure.
The
That's a
ugly
great
can't
seg.
the
Oh, go
ugly
ahead,
can't be
please.
changed. The ugly can't be changed.
Right.
It's a great segue to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is your second book,
My
what every
favorite,
CEO must know,
my
right?
favorite,
And
yeah.
it's 37 leadership secrets, right?
Hmm.
Um, Here's what I think Ken and I would like to know. Of all of the 37 in your book, which one resonated most with you?
Wow.
Like, which one was maybe in the hardest way too? Like you just mentioned, the good, the bad, the ugly. And how might your career have been different if you had understood that what
Mm.
that most the one
Okay.
that you felt most in your heart in your book, say 40 years ago. Let's go back 40 years. If you had
Okay.
had this book, how would your career be different, you think?
Number one is actually one that you probably wouldn't think I would pick, and that is the confidence, not confidence, the negotiation chapter.
Okay.
As an employee, when you're young, you have no idea that every day is negotiation of something. You're
Okay.
negotiating for parking spot. you're negotiating for a raise, you're negotiating for a position, but you don't understand that if you know what you're negotiating for, you know the variables that you should impact first. The first time CEOs all think they're fantastic negotiators. Every one of them, bar none. But one of the CEOs who gave me that story, but he wouldn't be identified because he's still in the same position at the same company, and he's in some rocky things, but he has learned himself because we've had similar discussions.
Okay.
And he had a different chapter in there where he was identified. And after sleeping on it for a couple of weeks, we took it out and he wrote an outline for what he'd like to talk about. He says, the more I think about it, the one thing that could have changed my entire career in multiple startups is if he were a better negotiator.
Is
And
that
first,
Bill, is that an unpopular truth? Do you think that if you were advising rookie CEOs, you would tell them to learn how to negotiate better, to even take courses in negotiation?
well, yes, I would do that, but the way I would do it is probably different for each person. For example,
Okay.
if if you already think you're a great negotiator, if you already think that and that you can out negotiate anybody, then you haven't met the two best salespeople that I know, because they would put you under the table. Put it that
Okay.
way. But I would say, okay, give me an example of when you negotiated something that made a difference for your company and for you.
Right.
And I'd listen, take notes, listen, and really understand what they thought they were negotiating. How do they determine the key points of negotiation? And then I would give my opinion or ask questions about why do you think that, yada, yada, yada. So they could come to a conclusion on, because I have to be careful when I'm talking to these people about not trying to show them I'm better than them, because I'm not in most cases, right? I just have a perspective
Mm-hmm.
that they can use to become better. And that's the one thing that I learned is that in reality, they know they're not the best negotiator, but the front that they show you is that they are the best negotiator. So if I was a VP working for the CEO
Mm-hmm.
versus a consultant working with the CEO, I get two different answers. What they tell
Interesting.
me
Yeah.
as a VP or an
Uh-huh.
SVP or even a GM is different than what they're going to tell the consultant.
Hmm.
They're going to tell the consultant, I think I do pretty good, but I have some weaknesses. I get beaten in certain cases, certain ways. And so you this is why I believe first time CEOs have blind spots because they don't admit it to their people, where the first thing they should do is admit it to their people and form a feedback loop that works for the management team that they can delegate down to their team. And now you get a company wide feedback loop. So, because look, think about yourself. We all have blind spots. I
Hmm.
can't see it all. I can't
Right.
see stuff in my blind. I can't see stuff over there. However, somebody else can.
Mm-hmm.
If they're in your team and you sit in a meeting and you say yes to everything, right? You just say yes to everything, and the CEO thinks you're going to go do it, and then you don't deliver anything. Who gets hurt? The CEO
Right.
gets hurt.
Right. So
And
it's a collaborative approach, though, of course, right? I mean, you're
yeah,
basically, that requires trusting your team, trusting your peers, um, I certainly think it's a healthier way to do business for sure.
Right.
Um,
But it's not always that easy because if you inherit,
right.
if you, that's what I mean. It's different for each person. And so you have to learn everybody has strengths and weaknesses and everybody has blind spots. So in this book, what I tried to do, um, the stories cover a whole bunch of different experiences.
Right.
And of course, that's a lot of it is based on who's in the book. And I added a couple of well-known cases so that people could understand the contour of my book in the world of Steve Jobs and
Sure.
you know what's her name there, um, the blood woman,
Oh,
uh,
from oh, I know who you're
Theranos,
talking about.
Theranos, yeah.
Yes, yes,
So
yeah, Theranos, yes,
Elizabeth.
yes,
So
yes.
I put my book in the contour of Steve Jobs didn't go away; he came back stronger than ever,
He did.
and till he got caught up in a health situation.
Mhm.
Right.
But he's very well loved and respected in history, even though
Hmm.
people know the bad side and the mistakes he made.
Right.
So, will people ever forgive Elizabeth Holmes? I don't know. That's to play out yet. I don't think they will. She hurt too many people. She
Yeah.
took too much money. She was lies and lies and lies
Right.
and cover up. And I hate to tell you, but there's people that do that every day still.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question, Bill. Speaking about Steve Jobs and how people look back at him, let's 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 put that spotlight on you. If you strip away titles and all the companies you worked for, um, how do you hope people how, how do you hope people see you and how you were a leader over those 50 years of leadership?
So so that's a decent question. I've done a couple of things in my over the years. One is I took people that I work with and asked them to do the 3 word exercise.
I've
Describe
done
me in
that.
describe me in 3 words. So I have that.
Hmm.
So I know a little bit about how people that know me well and work with me well, what they would say. The only thing is that they don't give you the bad words. They always give you the good words.
True. True.
So in hindsight, I would have said, give me 3 words that describe me, 2 good ones and one not so good one. That's how I would change that. And so if anyone who's watching this decides they want to do that exercise, it's a great exercise.
So let's
But
define
ask,
that exercise. So Bill, let's define that exercise for our
okay,
audience.
okay,
And I did this exercise, as a matter of fact. You had me do this with my team. Um, Basically, if I remember, the gist of it was I went out to every one of my staff,
hmm
regardless of position, regardless of years of service, new hire, 10-year veteran, and I basically asked them to describe me in 3 words.
yep,
And what we were looking for, once I got all those back, was commonalities and also differentiation. And then I could look at the person who did it because my employees actually had no problem doing this without anonymity, but you can certainly do it with anonymity if you prefer. Maybe you think you're going to get better answers or more honest answers. My staff knows that they can pretty much critique me and I'm good with it. And for the most part, they were positive, as you said.
hmm
But it was interesting to see the people on it and how through the lens of those individuals, how they see you, even with just 3 words, it was definitely illuminating. It was
it,
interesting.
it is. And if I would ever recommend to do it again, which is what I'm saying,
Right, right,
in hindsight, say give 2 words
right.
to describe you, and
In a
then
positive
one,
light. Right,
yeah, in a positive light, and one in a not so positive light.
right.
And it's okay to be as negative as you want. It won't hurt. It won't count against you. This
Right,
is for you personally, so you can grow.
right,
Because that's what I think it's what a leader should do. They need to understand what people see when they see them.
right.
So here's one. One of the CEOs and the rookie CEO that I sent the beta version before it went to the editor, because both books have been professionally edited.
Hmm.
So before the first one went, I had a rough draft. And believe me, it was rough. There were some missing pieces, but I said, this is all about you. Please review it. And if there's anything you don't agree with or you want changed, I'll be glad to change it before it goes to the editor. Now, she may change something. She's a bestseller. She's going to change something.
Right.
She's a bestseller editor, but I have no idea. It's my first time working with an editor. I just know it's going to change. So I sent it to him, and it took him, I don't know, a week or two to get back to me. And he said, I don't agree with everything you wrote here, Bill, but I do see your point and your perspective. You don't need to change a thing. Right then, I decided that he re-earned respect from me because he realized there was a different point of view,
Right.
and it was my point of view. Now, the first book could have had a different title because it's really how I was a VP, SVP, and all of those roles of some business function, mostly product management, marketing, product marketing, business development, all those groups that I ran in the past, but in operations in one company. But what's interesting is it's how I experienced those CEOs. And in most cases, I had a seat at the table. I attended board meetings. I made board meeting presentations. Um, in the startups, I was at every board meeting. I was just dismissed before the voting when they did the private discussions and the cap tables and all that sort of stuff. Although a couple of meetings like that I was able to attend, and I got
Right.
a chance to see how a real true tier one Silicon Valley startup is run by the lawyers, believe it or not.
Right.
The lawyers are not on the board, but they're in the board meetings. How do you like that?
Right.
So the
Lem-
famous attorneys that are well known in Silicon Valley were in every board meeting, and I got to learn. And then when I was presenting one day, I got to learn what you don't do when you're presenting to a board of tier one people. You just don't come unprepared for starters. You know every number, you know why you do something,
Right.
and if you don't know it, you tell them, I got it. I understand that this is a problem. I will take input from all of you, and I will get back to you with an update next month. That's simple.
Question, since we're talking about the first book, which is, about rookie CEOs and CEOs in general, is there a question that you wish those rookie CEOs would have asked themselves, but perhaps they didn't, or they didn't even know to? But after writing that book, there was a
Yeah.
sort of a common question they should have asked themselves. Is there that, you know, that something that you can remember and go, that would have been great for the
Well,
book, or even the next book?
it's actually in the next book, but I didn't put it in that term. So my reflection mirror meeting with myself, which I instituted during the past 30 years, um, and I still do it. I always made Friday an administration day. So
Okay.
Friday was the day I got caught up in email, voicemail, one-on-one, one-on-one write-ups, reviews, you name it. But I had to ask myself, what did I accomplish this week? What could I have done better? And what am I going to do next week? And how am I going to do that better? So I wrote about that in this book, in the second book,
Hmm?
and it's one of my favorite. I call my frameworks mini frameworks because I think that some books are frameworks. The complete book is one framework, and that's great. And people live by their framework, whatever it is. I I don't live by one framework because I don't think you can. Everything different everywhere. and everything doesn't fit into one framework. However, as a leader, the one question that all of these first time CEOs should ask themselves is, how do my people see me? And my people are my team, my employees, my business partners, my investors, everybody that is in your web of business. How do they see you? And on my little Friday meeting, which can be as early, as little as 15 minutes to a couple of hours, depending on how much you got, you just sit back and think and reflect. Did I yell at somebody this week? Did I did I cut somebody off in a meeting when
Did
I
I
should have
thank
just,
them?
yeah.
Right.
Did I practice my manage by walking around, my 1 minute manager skills? I mean, it's really true. If you the blind spots start with yourself. You have to think back, keep track of everything in your own mind. Too many of these first time CEOs, especially if they've been around for years and they finally get that role, it's they just don't get it. They don't understand other people hang on every word they say. They watch every move you make. They mimic you because they think it's okay. If you take off in the morning to go to the gym and yet they see you walk out with your gym bag, well, it's okay for them to do it. You leave
Right.
early to pick up your kids at daycare, then it's okay for them to do it. Then don't expect them to not mimic you.
Right. Right.
Now, there are rare times when a CEO is first in and last out. There are times,
Hmm.
and they don't take off in the middle of the day, and they don't do any of those things, but they also don't watch their people. They don't know anything about their people. They have their
Right.
number two, which they should have. Everyone should have a number two that you trust and you can run things by. It could be on your team, it could be a consultant, it could be a coach, it could be a Vistage chair or somebody like that. Somebody that you can just bitch to.
Right.
And it's not your wife or spouse, because that doesn't work
Right.
unless they work with you and they really truly would be honestly provide feedback. They typically don't provide honest feedback. You need someone who's willing to ask you the difficult questions,
Right.
because the best feedback is in questions. Have you considered what it looks like when you make decisions like that? Have you considered that you ask people for feedback and you never implement any of it? You just, yeah, okay. I let them talk to me, but I'm not doing any of their things. Yeah, pick things. Pick a little something. Give people something. See who's got it. But
I think
anyway,
that's
those are some of the
yeah. I think that
things.
I think that's solid advice, Bill. And I think you're right. I think you know, giving yourself time to appreciate your team, to take a moment to breathe, right? Um,
Mhm.
it's a very busy day when you're a CEO, and certainly, with all the hype cycles of AI, for example, right now, it justifies taking a breath and looking around and determining what you want to do, kind of like what you did with your voice AI company. I have one final question for you, which is there one thing in the telecom sector, in our industry, in our ecosystem that we're not talking about, but perhaps we should be? You were just at IT Expo, for example. So you saw a huge swath of different industries and verticals, different types of service providers. Is there something we should be talking about that today we're not?
Wow, that's a good question. I haven't thought about that. I think I think it's different for different types of people and different companies, but my focus being on leadership and technology together, which has been my thing for many decades. I think that being a leader in the era of AI is changing in real time.
Mhm.
So I think that every CEO, every senior leader, title is irrelevant, should be asking themselves and their trusted souls, whoever they are, you know, what can I do to leverage AI? Where should I be careful? Where should I take a risk? And how is this going to impact me and the company I work for? So, my next book is built around this. Now, I've only started the outline. It's going to take a couple of years. So, AI is going to continue to develop in this time frame. It's not going away. Um, if you think back to, the internet and the web browser, uh, Ethernet and networking,
Mhm.
um, you can even look at PCs, laptops, phones, all of these technology changes. Nothing has been as fast and furious as AI. And
I'd agree.
and you brought up earlier about a human being part of it. One thing I noticed at IT Expo was the phrase "human in the loop." That was a new phrase for me because I think that the power requires a human in the loop to
Mhm.
leverage AI. You need the ideas. Now, obviously, with AGI, which some people say is here and other people say it's 10 years out, I'm not an AGI expert by any means. I haven't studied it, but I read about it. So to me, when AI can start to do reasoning, it doesn't need any of us. So I don't know what's going to happen. But AI is not there today, in my opinion. You need a leader. You need a CEO. And I was recently asked in a podcast, what are the what's the one role that will never be replaced by AI? And I said, I don't think CEO is going to be replaced by AI. AI will augment the CEO, and there'll be probably multiple AI agents to represent the CEO, but there'll always be a CEO. So that's an opinion. And then the second role, I said there's two roles. The sales closer has got to be a human. The closer,
Unless the company you're selling also has an AI robot
AI.
that's also doing
I,
it, then we could argue that we're being replaced. Um,
we could debate that one. I don't. I mean, I hear it. I see
I
it.
actually think so. I actually think, Bill, um, when it comes to AI, I actually think that um, I think the term replace is a it sets up a false narrative.
Hmm.
In my humble opinion, I think that human beings' passion for whatever they're doing will prevail. We're going to have a AI expert on our show in a few weeks, as a matter of fact, and I'm going to be challenging him on some of these questions because he and I see things somewhat the same and then somewhat different. But I actually think that even benchmarking for me, I like to benchmark AI with how it helped the human, and I benchmark the two together. So I don't
Hmm.
benchmark the performance of AI. I benchmark the performance of a human being utilizing AI. And to me, that is the humanity and the right way to approach it. Now, that doesn't mean that AI couldn't replace many of the things a person does, just as any technology or tool has in the past.
Hmm.
A nail gun has absolutely replaced the amount of hammers that are being sold and utilized when you're doing a roof or whatever tool that you want to use as an example or an analogy. But Um, we have gray matter up here. We should use it, and we shouldn't get. And I'm going to use the word lazy. I'm sure I'll have some people that will comment and say that's not laziness, it's efficiency. But we shouldn't get lazy and lose our ability to do the things that we're passionate about, that we enjoy doing, even if we don't do it as well as an AI. That's the part that I think sometimes people miss. AI will be able to play the piano better than I can, but I'm still going to play piano.
Hmm. So I have a question for you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Yeah, please.
You remember when calculators came out?
Oh, yes.
I had a
So
scientific one early on. Yep.
I had a programmer. I had a TI programmer,
I had Texas
Nice.
Instruments as well. Yes.
and I still have one. It goes from octal to decimal to binary, right?
Nice.
So and that was very helpful because I was programming in an octal language,
Hmm.
and converting octal to hex was not easy for me. Sometimes things are easy, but that one wasn't. Anyway, so when calculators came out,
Mhm.
teachers told kids they couldn't use it because they won't learn math unless they do the math.
Right.
And we all know, all three of us know that people don't like math in general unless you are a math person,
Right.
which I don't know, maybe 10, 12% of the world is. I don't know. But I always liked math, but I love my calculator, right? But I always did well in math. Connie has a math degree, among others, and I do math better than her most of the time. And I like to always be the first one at the cashier at the grocery store who can split the bill in 50-50 faster than they can because they need a calculator and I don't. Anyway, so with AI is much faster
Mhm.
at just especially if you use voice activated ChatGPT or something,
Sure.
or whatever. Um, you could just ask it to do something really quick. You don't even need to look it up anymore, obviously, on Google.
Right.
I still do both sometimes, just for fun, and if I have a few minutes. But do you think that people will become less bright? I don't know what the right phrase is. Lazy. We use your lazy term. You think they'll become lazier because of ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and all those?
Personally, I think we've seen it. I mean, even with the younger generation, my grandkids, for instance, even, right? They don't have to work. Yeah, well, we all talk about that new math and blah, 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 and all the stuff they do. But honestly, they all have this. They pull out the calculator in here, or they just go, whatever the AI is on their phone. What is this? And I think you pointed it out, Billy. You just said something about splitting 50-50 at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Well, go hand them the a $20 bill and the difference in change, 48 cents at any fast food joint, and watch the expression, right? So just based on the generation behind me and how much they've lost in, I guess that would be critical thinking skills, reasoning, stuff like that. Yes, I think unfortunately it could potentially make us lazier and dumb us down more because we have so much information available to us now. Like we had to change, go from page 10 to page 58 in the map books to figure out where we were going and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all remember memorizing everybody's phone number. If you ask anybody these days, they don't know anybody's phone number. Why would they do that? I got all my contacts right here. So,
But do you think, Penn? Let me ask a question related to that. So it's a question on a question. I do agree with you that I think some of the population, Bill, if you will simply say, "Why even do it? I'll just let AI do it."
Hmm.
And maybe I'll ask the question this way: if AI can answer something correctly 92% of the time, but if you add in a human for that additional judgment call, it now makes it 98, 99% correct, but it's going to take longer. Do you side with efficiency, or do you side with the better judgment? So these are questions we have to ask ourselves based on just the concept of what's more valuable.
But the answer
depending
to
on
that is easy. If you're an A student, then you're going to go the extra mile to get the
right,
98.
correct.
If you're a B student, you're
We'll
not.
take the 92%. Right.
Bingo.
So then what you're doing is so the answer to your question is yes, some will get lazier, some will simply accept the status quo. But I still think that there will always be certain students or certain people that will use that technology to elevate themselves. Using your calculator analogy, as fast as AI is, there are children and adults who can use their fingers to do complex mathematics, and it takes them literally 1 or 2 seconds on their fingers. I don't remember what it's called, but I remember watching a news or a documentary on it, and I was astounded at the type of complex math we're talking about. So there, the human mind is still quite incredible,
Mhm.
and so it's going to be things like that I think will challenge AI for a while. Do I think that
yeah,
collectively, as
100%.
AI gets smarter and more robust, and its equivalent IQ will go to 150 and 170 and beyond, yes, at some point it'll be very difficult for someone of an IQ of even 140 or 145, which would be considered a pretty good IQ, to compete for sure.
Mm.
But I still think there's a value in that person that I think we shouldn't forget about, just for the simplicity. And I don't want to say that doing AI is simple, but I'm saying the answer coming easily. There's also some value in earning wisdom as opposed to just being handed it.
Right.
Right.
Well,
Right.
that's
Imagine if you gave a caveman a nuclear bomb. Okay, you handed Neanderthal a nuclear weapon and said, "Don't push that because it's going to destroy everything." Do we want to take? Who's the over under on whether or not they would have pressed that button?
uh,
Do you see where I'm
most.
going with this? I
Yes.
think,
Yes.
yeah.
It's pretty good. I
Thank you.
think the wisdom is a good one because the experience provides the wisdom. Back to the Tom Brady example of you're so experienced, you can read what's going on. You can read the room. And an AI can't read the room.
And it
It,
doesn't have emotional EQ. It has IQ.
but not
I'm
EQ.
not so sure it has
Right.
EQ. Now,
Right.
maybe someday it will.
Mhm.
Oh, I will say this about AI. I've been asking it for humor, for jokes, and
Oh,
it's
it's
failing
horrible.
miserably. So at least so you asked what careers will not be in jeopardy in the next couple of years. Comedians is another one
Comedians.
that I think is going to be just fine for the next couple of years for sure.
That's for
That's pretty
sure.
good. Well, there's certainly a lot to talk about. That's for sure. I
Oh,
do think
yes.
that leadership has to live through all of it. And so my next book, and I don't know how much time I have for it with the startup, but my next book is really designed and architected to be the 4D CEO in the AI era. Now the title could change, but I have power and confidence and power in the title of the new book, and I really liked this title and I like the book. The next one, I'm adding clarity and resilience as the 4 dimensions. So there's there's confidence, clarity, resilience, and those create the power.
Right.
And I've gotten there through doing various interviews and answering a lot of questions. And so I like to call that the 4 dimensions. of the CEO because I know it's broad. I don't think anyone specifically has written a book like that. We all use those words, but to put it together as a four-dimensional, I actually have a model on my wall here, right in front of me. I have a corner in my office, and 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 that model includes so many things that I could create uh, off of it. But the 4D CEO is something that I've had on the brain for a long time. And I have outlines, a couple of outlines. I've created a couple of courses. They're not going to ever come to market, but I've created them. And the fact is that adding in the AI era, it's probably puts it into a shorter term category, but should sell a lot of books in a short period of time. But it's really true because as we go through the next 5 to 10 years, with the speed of change, how do we build? Well, not me, because I'm not leading companies anymore, just a startup, but the people that are out there in businesses, how do you move forward, protect your job, drive business, help create leaders, other leaders, and people? How do you do all that
At the speed of light.
at this in an 8 to 10 hour
kidding.
day? How do you do it? What
Right.
are the things that you need to do that? And it does require those four things. It requires confidence.
Yes.
It requires clarity. It will absolutely require resilience. And if you don't have those three things, you don't have any power because people in AI are going to take it away from you.
Right.
So you've got to figure out how to put all those together. And that's what I'm working on now.
Well, Bill, I will definitely
side
read that
project.
book when it comes out. So
Yes.
please, obviously I'll be seeing you at the next trade show, I'm sure. Definitely put me on your book list. And I'm following you on Amazon as well and LinkedIn. So yeah, so looking forward to that book. I think that's great. That's a foundational concept that I haven't read a book that definitely went in that kind of direction, to those points. So, so thank you for sharing. On behalf of Ken and myself, thank you for joining this 100% Uptime podcast. I had a lot of fun. I love talking to someone that's had such a long career. I mean, we could talk all day long about everything you've done. I know we literally jumped decades to try to do everything, starting with your new venture, going back in time, and then traveling, to the A of AI again, right? So almost full circle from start to finish here on this podcast. But again, thank you so much, Ken.
Yeah, Bill, thanks. I really enjoyed this session with you. Lots of knowledge there. So
Well, thank you.
People listening in, go find out more about Bill. There's a lot of wisdom. So anyways, thanks for you're absolutely welcome. And thanks everyone.
I appreciate the invite. Thank you guys for having me. It's a fun group here.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe we'll hit you up again in the future.
All right. Sounds good.
There you go. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button below. You can catch us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and always at our website, engagep2p.com. So until next time, just remember, 100% uptime isn't just about technology. It's about your people, your culture, your strategy, and the way you show up every single day. Keep your team strong, your mission clear, and your business running its very best. So keep building, keep leading, and hey, keep it at 100% uptime.